Hello and welcome once again to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie the Professor Esser, and with me as always is...
Phil Parrish.
Hey Phil, always happy to have you here on Superconnectivity. So, there's a lot going on in the world today, but I want to start off with a letter from a loyal listener. Kenneth Smyson writes, Hey Charlie and Phil, I'm curious as to your thoughts on a potential end to the trope of single lead superhero movies. We're already kind of seeing it, but do you think it will be a trend or the new model going forward? Let's look at MCU's Phase 3 lineup. Captain America Civil War team up, Doctor Strange solo title, we're assuming. Guardians 2 team up, Spider-Man rumored to team up with Iron Man. Thor 3, team up with the Hulk. Black Panther, unknown. Infinity War 1, team up. Ant-Man Wasp, team up. Captain Marvel, unknown. Infinity War 2, team up. Inhumans, team ups. 7 team ups, 1 solo, 3 unknowns. As you can see, it seems that the approach to Phase 3, that's the approach to Phase 3. Do you think Phase 4 will continue that? It helps logistically to share marketing campaigns between leads. I believe RDL, I think it meant RDJ, and Evans have both said that regarding Civil War. I, for one, love the idea. It's always interesting seeing heroes share screen time, how they work together to kick butt, overcome problems, resolve differences, etc. Anyways, I'm just killing time, broke down, I'm in my bus, LOL. Thanks for the great show, Kenneth Smyson. You did get my name, my last name pronounced right, by the way, so I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right again, Kenneth. So, interesting thoughts from our loyal listener, Kenneth. Phil, what do you think? Are we seeing more of this team up premise, or do you think that's
Yeah, I think he's hit on something, because one, I think they have to go bigger. They try to go bigger and better every movie. So it's like you have all these team movies, and then all of a sudden you're going to go back to a solo hero movie. That's kind of maybe seem like a slowdown, maybe. And two, I mean, with Marvel, they have this connected universe now. So I mean, I think that's part of the it's part of that same creature, because it's like, if you have a big enough threat hits New York, one event, only Iron Man's going to show up. I mean, it's going to be like, well, where are the rest of the Avengers?
Yeah. Well, and I think, and here's actually one thing I'll say, is I'm going to say that, truth be told, aside from the first Iron Man, all of the films have been something of team-up films. Because Captain America is a team-up film. It's a team-up of Captain America and the Howling Commandos. Iron Man 2 is a team-up of Iron Man and War Machine. Hulk isn't a team-up per se. But then again, the Incredible Hulk is kind of in this gray area in the whole MCU anyway. It's part of it, but it was also in that first movie setup. Iron Man 3, again, team up Rhodey and Iron Man. And so and that's why I say, really, we say Doctor Strange is a solo movie, but is it really going to be? Or is it going to be a team up of not for nothing, team up of Doctor Strange and either Clea or the Ancient One, or maybe even a team up with Mordo when stuff hits the fan. I think that this thing is that when you build out this magical universe, the fact that there's more magical people kind of becomes this thing that you can't ignore. And in fact, it gets to be something that people kind of make fun of, is the fact that, the only person Iron Man calls in when the president's being held hostage is Rhodey, isn't this a job for Captain America? Now, of course, it wasn't a job for Captain America, because Captain America was with S.H.I.E.L.D., and S.H.I.E.L.D. was in on the whole Hydra setup from the start, which is a great way that when you see it as a whole, it actually, oh wow, that's totally explained. But yeah, so I think that Kenneth is absolutely right, and I think this is very much the Marvel model, which DC is trying to replicate. And perhaps, and this is the thing, we give DC all sorts of flack for this idea. Oh, they're just jumping right into the Avengers with their Batman v Superman. But really, when we think about it, with the exception of Iron Man, all the movies have been team-up films to some extent. Even Thor is Thor and the Warriors 3 versus Loki. So you actually get this whole team of characters, no matter how you slice it. Now maybe not maybe the Warriors 2 aren't marquee heroes. Maybe the Howling Commandos aren't marquee heroes, but for those who are watching it, it's like, oh yeah, that's who's a part of this team. Captain America isn't carrying this film all by himself. If nothing else, it's Captain America and Bucky in this film. And then, of course, when you get to Winter Soldier, it's Captain America and Natasha and Falcon and Bucky and Nick Fury. So, and of course, in the Captain America, again, you have Peggy Carter. So, who is her own superhero character in and of itself. So, yes, Kenneth, we are in one. I think we're in great agreement with you. And I think you're right. That is the trend we're going to see going forward with superhero films. I think that, I had not heard a rumor of Iron Man being in the Spider-Man film, but it would not surprise me to see another hero helping Spider-Man out. If not Iron Man, then someone more affordable. It's like, who's on budget? Hawkeye and Spider-Man. Why don't you two crazy kids team up? But that brings me to what I think is like some of the biggest news. The biggest news in the Marvel Universe has to be just the continuing anticipation and joy and hope and fear and love for Winter Soldier. Not Winter Soldier, Civil War. And there was this thing that came up since last week that people have said, which is this big internet question, who's in the box? Do you know what I'm talking about, Phil?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, who's frozen, yeah.
Yeah. So there's in one of the clips, if you look, there's a little yellow tube behind Cap and Bucky as they're running into battle, and there's someone inside. And it comes to this question of who's inside. And, there's talk. Is that Quicksilver? Is that Adam Warlock? Is that, somebody else? Who could that be? Is it a clone of somebody? And it got me thinking, who that very well might be? Jack Monroe.
Yes.
Because, and this is the thing. So, as I've stated, my theory is to who dies in Civil War. Who dies in Civil War will be Bucky. Now, Rob's going to say, hey, they've got Sebastian Stan for a 9-picture deal. They're not going to kill him and let him out of that mess. And I'm going to say, yes, they're not. And how do you keep Sebastian Stan but kill Bucky? You bring in Jack Monroe. Because here's the thing. The 1950s Captain America storyline has William Burnside so obsessed with Cap getting the plastic surgery to become Cap. Now, here's the thing that a lot of people don't know. When the Russo brothers did Winter Soldier, before they had the script for Winter Soldier, people asked, well, what are you looking at? And they're saying, we're really into the 1950s Cap. And I think the original idea was going to be, let's do that two Cap story. The 1950s Cap and the regular Cap. So Cap, he's been unfrozen, but then someone else is unfrozen this other Cap from the past. And they wanted to do that story. And someone said, well, we have Sebastian Stan and we can put him in the Bucky role, but why is the Bucky there? Yada, 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 yada. And so they went with, okay, well, let's do the Winter Soldier story, which is still a great story. We still have Falcon in here because Falcon was a big part of the two Cap story. Mm-hmm. But now if they do a Cap 4 and they unfreeze a Jack Monroe and a Chris Evans as evil Cap, who had the same plastic surgery. So here's my idea. Remember that scene where they unfree, where we said, they show Bucky coming out of the tube in the trailer, and we said, oh, maybe that's them putting Bucky back into the tube. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's General Ross saying, after Cap is like, I can no longer be Captain America, and walking away, and all this stuff, and I can never be Iron Man again, says Tony Stark, as he said in the end of the last movie he was in. As everyone's like, oh, I must walk away, and Captain America no more, with the little costume and the thing, and then you have General Ross in his evil as head of Hammer waking up 50s Cap and Bucky. And they'll probably mention something about 50s Cap and Bucky in the in the movie at some point, so it's not a big shock. And say, "Welcome back, Captain America and Bucky. It's time to serve your country again." And you see Sebastian Stan and Chris Evans there, sort of being confused as to what's going on, because they've had this surgery and all this kind of nonsense. They may even make a whole thing about, they put some other people in the role for various reasons, did plastic surgery on them so they'd look like you, so it always seemed like it was like you were a continuous hero. So watch for that. That's my theory, is maybe they're going to bring in Jack Monroe out of that yellow tube. And I think that would be pretty freaking awesome, because I would like to see another Captain America film. And if you could integrate Jack Monroe and William Burnside into it, I think that would be freaking awesome. And again, like I said, it allows you to keep Sebastian Stan in the process and still have the glory of a dead Bucky. Because really, Buckies are never more dangerous than when they're dead.
Yeah, I like that theory, but I still think the guy who's getting killed in Civil War is Hawkeye. It's just I'm building more of a case in my head. It's just, you're gonna get you're gonna get the grieving widow and the kids. You're gonna get the grieving Black Widow, and you're gonna get Scarlet Witch. Oh, he taught me how to be an Avenger, and he sacrificed himself for my brother. And I think it's gonna smack in the Avengers in the face, because it's like, this guy we thought of as our brother, and he's like the everyman. Well, guess what? In our fight amongst ourselves, the everyman got killed.
Yeah, and that's a good argument. And honestly, the more you make that argument, I can absolutely see how thematically and dramatically that story really works. And the idea of
and like we talked this week, then you can bring in Kate Bishop. You can bring in another female into the MCU too.
But this is actually where we get into this question of, okay, so assuming the death is Hawkeye, and of course, as has been said, they set up Hawkeye's death in the last film. They pulled that punch to give us a misdirect. Maybe now's the time for Hawkeye to die, because and as people say, he's got nothing. He's a guy who shoots arrows. Why am I fighting giant robots? I don't know, but I'm shooting arrows at it, because if we...
Yeah, I mean, that was ridiculous as it is. And also, I mean, how ridiculous is it going to be him going into Infinity War versus Thanos?
Yeah. Well, any more ridiculous than him fighting Ultron? Any more ridiculous than him fighting Loki and an army of Chitauri? I mean, really,
I know.
Not for nothing. Like, really... Just to call a shelter half an entrenching tool here, all we've ever seen Thanos do is sit in a chair and scowl. As far as we can tell, his superhuman ability is to sit and scowl. Just sit and scowl and tell other people to do things, and to make very bad deals with what few Infinity Stones he has. Okay, Loki, take this Infinity Stone. Now, don't betray me. You're not going to betray me, right? Oh, no, of course not. Hey, what are you the god of? The truth. I'm the god of the truth. That's how you can trust everything that comes out of my mouth. Okay, I'm sure that's absolutely true, and I'm not going to need to Google this or Wikipedia you for any reason. I'm just going to take your word for it. You're an honorable man, Mr. Loki. Shaky, shaky. Yeah, Thanos. But that's why I say Thanos already has a Soul Stone, because the only reason to trade the Mind Stone, or to give Loki the Mind Stone, is if he had a Soul Stone in reserve that he could use against Loki if Loki decided to get too big for his britches. I think that makes sense in that, and as I've said, that way after Doctor Strange, they don't have to reintroduce an extra stone. But to this end, we've discussed this idea of bringing Kate Bishop. Now, I think that rather than bringing Kate Bishop as the new Hawkeye, what I think you could just as easily do is bring in Lila Barton as the new Hawkeye. Now, she's just a little girl. And it's funny because I'm thinking, Age of Ultron, that was like 4 or 5 years ago. So yeah, she must have grown up since she was that little girl. No, actually, it was 1 year ago Age of Ultron came out. It's just, there's so much content now. It just seems like so much longer. People say that time goes faster. as you age, I don't know, man. I think that it's all about how much content you absorb. I think time goes faster if you're not paying attention, but if you're watching a lot of stuff, it seems like a lot more time has passed. But so she's still got to be like 9 or 10, but she's almost a teenager, and by Infinity War she'll be a teenager. And they could probably even swap out a kid at some point if they need to. You know, do a whole Anakin Skywalker as I was 9 last episode. Now I'm 23. But so I think that if you have that, and so to me, much more dramatically is that if you do have Barton die, is we see a very grim and determined little kid pick up his daughter pick up his bow and arrow and just start 3 arrows at once, and just splitting her own arrows kind of thing. I think that's a much more powerful image for bringing in a female Hawkeye, even if it's not Kate Bishop, if it is Lila Barton. I think that's a much more powerful image. And the other reason why I say that it's hard to bring in Kate Bishop is then we've got to establish who Kate Bishop is. If you do Lila Barton, her existence is organic within the story. Kate Bishop, we have to create a backstory as to why has she been trained by Hawkeye, or why is she taking on the Hawkeye image, And so, and like you said, you came up with this great idea that maybe her parents died in the Battle of New York. Hawkeye took her under his wing. But then again, sort of like what we said with International Iron Man this week is like, oh, here's this character we haven't mentioned up until this point, but she's crucial to our story. So I do think that that's like your big problem with Kate Bishop walking in at this point, is that you don't have a strong reason for her. Whereas I think Lila Barton wanting to avenge her father, wanting to become a spy like her father, makes perfect sense. Wanting to be the new Hawkeye makes perfect sense. And, not for nothing, if they wanted to replace that girl, actually it's 2 girls because they're identical twins. They also played a Nova Corpsman Day's daughter too. So she's everybody's daughter in the Marvel universe. But if they could replace her and put her a slightly older girl in the thing, or maybe there was like a teenage. Maybe Kate Barton. No, I was their first daughter, and you didn't see me in the last episode because I was at college. There we go. Makes perfect sense. But again, once you establish what the relationship is, it makes sense why it progresses to where it goes to next. So, and to that extent, yeah, I guess you could introduce Kate Bishop there as, Clint's apprentice, but you basically, essentially, you have to have a Clint Barton, Kate Bishop scene, which you don't have to have if you have Lila. If you just bring in Lila at the end, then it's just, oh, that's Lila. Oh, and now I see where they're going. So if they do that, but my money's still on Winter Soldier, just because, like I said, it's and here's the other reason I'm going to say it's Winter Soldier. It's Cap's movie, and he's already overshadowed by Black Panther and Spider-Man. So you got to at least write it back to Captain America. So it's like, I was in the movie too. It's Captain America: Civil War, but I was in it. Hi, I'm Chris Evans. You got to actually tie it back to him. So I think the real points of drama in the story have to tie back to Captain America. And so killing Clint, I don't know if that really does that. Although who you could kill and not have it be Clint and not have it be Bucky and have it really have an effect on Cap is if you kill Natasha. And here's what I'm going to say.
They're going to kill one of the 2 female heroes.
Well, if you introduce someone else, it's they're bringing in you could introduce some other first off they're bringing in Agent 13 in this. We're getting and she actually beats up Bucky at some point. Sharon Carter. So we're bringing in Sharon Carter, and you could do all this. And here's what I'll say: no one's going to expect them to kill Scarlett Johansson. So if you killed Scarlett Johansson, I mean, that is just going to come right out of left field. You're going to be like, wait, now what now, huh? How did they, what, who? Because it was like, and it explains why we never did a Black Widow film. It's like, because we were going to kill her off because, you know, although then that's a whole other bag of hammers with story-wise, but I was thinking if you wanted to have a really dramatic death that no one saw coming. And that's the thing, because to me, that's the thing about, it's like when they killed Quicksilver, killing Quicksilver had power because you didn't see it coming. As he says, what, you didn't see that coming? Which is funny when you think about it. It's like, oh, yeah, you didn't see that coming, And no, you didn't see it coming. Because nothing about that character spoke to, I'm good, the guy who's going to die this episode. Because it's kind of funny because on one level he is, because, he's the guy we just introduced. We don't know much about him. So if we kill him, he doesn't have much weight, except he has a huge amount of weight because everyone's going into the story expecting to see him, knowing he's there, knowing how important he is to Avengers lore in general. And so then when you kill him, it's like, oh my goodness, they killed Quicksilver. To the point where it was like, well, they didn't really kill Quicksilver, right? I mean, Quicksilver's not dead. Huh? Dead. I mean, right? Is he really dead? To the point where people are like, none of the shots actually hit him in any place that would actually kill him, and, so, I mean, there is, those could have all passed through harmlessly. Maybe they got him to the doctors in time, yada, 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 so, and it is such a shock to have Quicksilver die, and it's not something you see. And if you want to say, who's the one person no one is thinking could die in Civil War, it's Black Widow. Because everyone else, you can see why they might die. You can see why Bucky might die. Cap died in the book. Robert Downey Jr. could die because he's too dang expensive. Hawkeye died because wasn't he supposed to die in the last movie? Scarlet Witch died because their brother already died. Maybe Marvel really doesn't have as much rights as they think they say they do, and they don't want to keep pushing the issue. Maybe Vision dies because they got to get that that Mind Stone out of his head somehow. And Vision falls apart and gets reassembled all the time. So, there's all these arguments for everybody else. And the one person this is the first time I've ever heard anyone make an argument of it, is me right now saying, what if it's Black Widow? Because you won't see it coming. So that's a possibility. Although another thing towards
Say, mark my words.
Well, no, because I'm still marking my words on Bucky. Bucky's where my words are marked. I'm sorry. The person who dies in Civil War is going to be Bucky. That's mark my words, Bucky dies. If it's not Bucky, then it could be Black Widow. Black Widow, here's what I'll say. If Bucky does not die, the next most likely character is Black Widow. Because Black Widow is the one you don't see coming. And the only reason I think that it really makes sense to kill Bucky is because bringing him back as Jack Monroe makes so much sense. And let me give you why it's likely that they'll bring him back as Jack Monroe. The Russo brothers were recently talking about who you'll see. And this is like one of these things where they said something. See, everyone's saying, "Well, will Doctor Strange be in the will Doctor Strange be in the end credit sequence?" And they said, well, you might see a person you haven't seen before in the end credits sequence, or maybe 2 or 3. And everyone's like, oh, that means they're going to have 3 credit sequences, post-credit sequences? And the answer is no. What they were saying is you might see 2 or 3 other characters. And those 2 or 3 other characters in the end credit sequence you weren't expecting are Jack Monroe, William Burnside, and of course General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, waking them up as the head of Hammer, as his new state-approved, mind-controlled Cap and Bucky. Because now they've got, once they can get Bucky's memory wipe machine and they get all that Hydra tech together and the shield tech and reassemble it, now they've got that. And that, I think, is what they're saying. So mark my words, at the end of Captain America Civil War, in the end credit scene, you're going to see the awakening of Bucky and Cap from the 1950s, and that's gonna be the big dramatic thing. Mark my words. Okay. Or something else will happen. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, but that's, that I think is what's wonderful about it, is that we don't know. And we can have this wonderful speculation because we really don't know. We have literally no idea what's going to happen. There's all these leaks and things, but there's so many leaks. I don't believe leaks, because for every leak leaks are like any other prediction. It's like you only remember the ones that panned out, and everything that didn't pan out you completely forget about. So it's like, which is why, and I also don't think we're going to get a giant Ant-Man, which I've mentioned. Not just because I don't know what you're going to do with a giant Ant-Man in this. I also just think that giant characters always look bad, and they're not going to do a giant character in this. It's like anytime you have a human grow to gigantic proportions, it always looks bad. You can have a giant thing, but they can't be human. It's a weird thing. We can accept a small human, but not a giant human. Giant humans always look bad, but small humans, we can, okay. Because I think we see small humans in the real world. We'll see, we see people who are really short. But like the biggest you ever see is like a 6-foot tall man or a 7-foot tall man. But you go to like a 14-foot tall man, that's so alien that we just say, well, I can see the cutout lines in there. I can see the green screen all over that. Because it's just too unusual of an image. Now you paint him blue and make him 20 feet tall, it's going to look a little more natural. But once it's a human being, it's like, well, that's just not right. So I don't think we're going to get a giant Ant-Man, even though people say, oh, we'll get a giant Ant-Man, and just like people, Cap dies. But they're only saying Cap dies because Cap died in the book. But when is what happens in the book ever associate with what happens in the movie? There was no time travel in Age of Ultron, you may have noticed, As people said, it's not really in the Age of Ultron. It's like the week and a half of Ultron. It's Weekend at Ultron's. That's what... yeah. So, what else is going on there? Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Ward's covered in goop.
I know. I saw that. I was like, "What is that stuff? What did they actually make that out of?"
Probably corn syrup. I am certain that Brent Dalton spent an hour in the shower afterwards.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm sure he said they are not paying me enough for this. It's because that was like honey drizzling, man. That was just nasty.
But yeah,
and that he had. I'm sorry. What?
No, I was gonna say something else, but no. What were you gonna say?
And that they like had him like standing there naked for like 4 hours. Like, okay, we gotta do one more. Pour some more goop on him. Pour some more goop on him. Like, yeah, pour some more goop on me. Okay, now let's do it where you slowly stand up. Okay, good. That was good. Let's do that one more time. More goop. He needs to be goopier. Where's all his goop going?
Just give us the menacing look.
No, the other one. That, and at some point they were just doing that just to mess with the poor guy. Yeah. But thank you, Brett Dalton. You were, as always, wonderful to watch on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as a man covered in goop. I'm really looking forward to see where that goes. Oh, one interesting theory I had on this, because we had Absorbing Man do seemingly a heel face turn here, where he's a good guy now, which makes sense because, of course, his son, Stonewall, who has the same kind of Absorbing Man powers, is in the Secret Warriors, and rather than creating a Stonewall character, they're having Crusher Krell be the Stonewall character, and that makes sense. But I was thinking in that same concept. Oh my goodness, I've lost my train of thought. Kind of vamp. Yeah, so they did the heel face turn with Pressure Krell, and what I'm wondering is, are they going to do a heel face turn with Lash? And here's what I'm thinking. So, Lincoln in that episode makes a comment. It's like, well, or maybe it was in the previous one, says the mutations aren't random. We're taught that we come into existence at a time when we're supposed to come into existence. And so here's my thought. What if some Inhumans are immune to control by Hive, but some aren't? And when Lash was created, the reason why he's only attacking some Inhumans is because these are the Inhumans who weren't meant to be brought over. And by not being meant to be brought over, meaning that these are the ones who would not have been selected by the Council of Sky's mom. And the ones that were selected not to be selected were the ones who would have been manipulated by Hive, that they could have been brought into Hive. Because remember, Hive is something that the Inhumans feared. Because remember, that's why they were all upset about the what do you call it, the monolith. Because the monolith was the guide to what took you to that planet where they knew Hive was. Now, Hive was an Inhuman, so clearly Hive was an Inhuman who was dangerous to the Inhumans. And they had this fear of the Hive. So if Lash is the being that comes into existence because there is this ancestral memory that Hive is coming, that as everything has progressed to this point, Hive is coming, we need someone who can protect us from Hive. Then perhaps that is what Lash is going to do. And maybe we're going to get that heel face turn with Lash, where Lash is going to be the hero, like Absorbing Man is now the hero, and Lash will be part of our Secret Warriors. Now, I do wonder if Lincoln is going to do a heel turn, because we're having all these face turns. Maybe Lincoln's going to do a heel turn. I can totally see that, that there's something about Lincoln that he's not trusting anyone, and he might be, even if he's immune to the manipulation of Hive, maybe he's sympathetic to Hive, sympathetic to this idea of...
I was going to say, it would just be like the type of guy that Daisy ends up with, First she was kind of almost had a thing with Ward, and now if Lincoln turns,
Yeah, well, she's like the
trouble magnet.
She's like the blonde. Yeah, she's who is that? The Barrymore character in Charlie's Angels always falls for the bad guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just always falls with the bad guy. So I could definitely see Lincoln being the bad guy in some capacity going forward. That maybe he is not squeaky clean guy that he seems, because and not for nothing you can say, well, maybe he's justified, maybe he's seen his world destroyed by both the Inhumans and by the humans. So first the Inhumans bring him into this nonsense, and then the humans destroy the old Inhuman structure. Now they've brought Hive here, but maybe Hive will be the messiah to him, and Lash is killing everybody, but maybe Lash is killing people for a reason. It gets into a very interesting, complex question, but I think that might be a possibility. So that's my wild speculation about Lash. Anything else you'd like to speculate about this week, Phil, or do you want to call that a night?
No, that's probably it, because you haven't seen much Daredevil yet, but we'll probably get into it next week. But I'm 6 episodes in, and it's great.
Yeah, no, I did see the first episode. I really liked it. I had to watch it because I completely forgot it dropped today, and I running like a chicken with my head cut off. But I did watch the first episode at work today. Shh, don't tell nobody. I did watch the first episode at lunch break, and maybe a little after. And it was really good. I mean, I had to watch it on my phone, so that's not the best place to watch Daredevil. But I really liked it. I liked it. I like to see that Nelson Murdoch is apparently doing good business, even if they're being paid in bananas. And I liked the end scene with spoilers, where Daredevil fighting the Punisher. I thought that was pretty awesome. It's just a great series, and I really liking where it's been. So, but next week we'll both watch the whole thing through, and we'll say, yeah, and here's everything that happened in Daredevil.
Yes. so
I don't know how much time we're going to have.
I'll probably be done. Yeah. So week before spoilers, and then we're going to spoil the heck out of Daredevil next week.
Yes. So, but first episode, thumbs up for me.
Oh yeah.
And okay, so Phil, where can they talk to you if they, like our good friend Kenneth, would like to write you or me about all the things they've heard?
Yes, please deluge us with emails. Well, you can always talk to me, anything Marvel or DC, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. I'm on Twitter @nightwingpdp. You'll usually find me live tweeting the new DC shows of the week, usually interacting with Charlie Esser so when he's on.
When I'm on.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, if you'd like to write to me, if you'd like to tweet with me, you can always tweet me @Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. Of course, do live tweet Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., The Incredible Hulk on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Wonder Woman at 8 p.m., and occasionally Gotham, which I have to catch up on, and Legends of Tomorrow, and sometimes Flash. Although always Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And of course, if you want to write me in that old-fashioned email way like your grandpa and grandma used to do, you can do that at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word with 2 N's, on connectivity@gmail.com. Okay, that has been our connections for this week. Please connect with us again. Good night, everybody.